Welcome back to Self-Love Ignited. On today's episode, I am chatting with Chantal Vanderhaeghen. Chantal is a beautiful woman who helps women, specifically women without children, honor their bodies and honor themselves. She is a confidence and intuitive counselor who enjoys walking alongside women willing to take the courageous steps to become confidently themselves. And it gives her so much joy seeing women get excited about being themselves with a sense of freedom, knowing that they are creating their lives in their own way. Chantal has so much insight, both from her personal story, her personal challenges, and her training. We talk about women of different ages, about how we can relate to each other, about how we can, we all have our own challenges, and about how as you age and as you go through things, your relationship with your body changes. At the end of the day, we all need the same thing. It's really, really beautiful. So I want to encourage you, jump on in, meet Chantal, and enjoy this interview. My name is Katie Allen, and this is Self-Love Ignited. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Self-Love Ignited. Today on the podcast, I am interviewing Chantal, and I'm really, really excited about this one. I cannot wait to get into this interview. So Chantal, welcome. Why don't you just take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody?
Thank you, Katie. And I'm most delighted to be here because I think what you're doing is really, really powerful. And I think as women, we really don't know how to love our bodies in its entirety, So thank you for having me here. I am a confidence or intuitive counselor, a Reiki master, and I've worked with intuition and with women for many, many years. And my story has been that I have had many of my own experiences about my body, but particularly as one, what I'm realizing more and more now, one as a woman without children. And I think it's really important that we start these conversations because it's only really occurring to me now what happened for me with my body. We don't go through beautiful rituals. We don't get taught how to honor our bodies. Like, when I look back when I was in my early teens, when I got my periods, I just got it. That was it. There was no this, that. Then you had to hide it. And then you go into your 20s and then, you go to work and you get all dressed up and you don't dare say that you're feeling like eek, because your period is making you feel like, you want to kill someone or, you've got so much pain. But again, we don't go through that process. And also when I was speaking to some friends about it as being a mother, you get excited about the pregnancy, but once the child is born, again, there's no processes of how do you love your body? How can you honor your body? And then also going out of it into menopause and when you really can't have children and your body changes again. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation to get this out there. And how do we share that with each other, with honor, with acceptance, without comparison, to know, you're a gorgeous young age compared to me. I'm 58, yet we can still admire each other. We can still love each other. And I can still feel youthful, but in a way, I don't want to be young anymore, to be honest, Katie. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. Plus other things in my life that have held me back from loving myself was, my living in a violent home, living in a European family where the boy was always favored. So then that cuts anything about your sense of self and as a girl, woman.
Yeah.
Then, having a car accident when I had PTSD. So at that point, my body was in such pain and I was in trauma and I had no sense of my body at all. And I think that also didn't help me love my body because all I could think of was, what's happening here? I've had enough. I'm too tired. Will this ever change? So I didn't then know how to honor my temple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we'll come most probably back to that. Only now as I'm really out of it all, am I going back and I'm honoring myself. I'm going right back. And the other thing is, we're just talking a bit earlier, my mum's 92 and we've just moved her into another care facility. But why I'm sharing that with you is because I'm watching her at 92, how she is with her body, what it means for her to still wear a lipstick, what it means for her to still feel attractive, even though, to be blunt, she has to wear what you call them, incontinent pads. And,
Mm-hmm.
initially she found that quite very distressing, So, these are all the things. How can we still be? Because often we don't respect women or men as an older person. We just look at them and go, oh, aren't they ugly, or yuck, or look at their legs, or, mum's gained weight, which she'd never done before. So I really want to honor that. And that's why I want these conversations to happen now.
Yeah.
That at your beautiful age, you honor that already. So that when you start going through the next stages, you already know or get a sense of how you can honor it. Doesn't mean you won't like your body. Doesn't mean you won't go, oh my God, my body's changing. Of course you will. Well, not of course you will. I shouldn't say that. Anyhow, I know I'm going on here, but I just feel that's really, really important, because that's what this is all about. So thank you, Katie, and everyone listening to me. As you can tell, this is a topic I really like talking about.
I love your passion about this, though. And I could not love it more how you're talking about different ages, because you're in your 50s, your mom's in her 90s, I'm in my 30s. Like, there's so many, and I know that we have listeners, from their teens all the way up into their 60s is what I'm aware of. So, this whole topic of like self-love and honoring your body, this is for all ages. And yes, it might look different for each of us. And like you said, whether you have children or not, or whether you're going through menopause or what have you, but it's such an important conversation. And the work that you are doing, which we will get into in a little bit, because I do want to hear more about that, but the work that you're doing with women sort of later in life as well is really, really, really important. So
thank you.
Before we get into any of that, let's start from the beginning. So I want to hear about, like, you are obviously so passionate about this, and I want to know, behind passion, there's a story. There's always a story that got you here. So tell us a little bit about your challenges, the hard stuff, and where that began in your life.
Okay. Well, let's say from beginning, from birth.
Okay.
My mum's Australian English. My father was French, and he was brought very up, particularly my French grandmother. Very much, it was the male that was important in the house. So I was the firstborn, and I was born very quickly because dad was going back. I was born in Australia, so I need to give that context. And my father would go back to France every 3 years for business. They'd send him back home because he was sent out here to run a business. Okay. So what would happen? So they needed me very fast to take me back. I was 3 months old when I first got on my plane, and I think at that point they were quite excited because I was the first grandchild, because he was an only child. But then my brother came along, and what I found for me over the years was I never felt good enough. I always felt second best, and my brother got favored. Now, he has a different memory of this, because it's interesting, because my father was a violent man. So he has a different concept of this, because he didn't feel that either. So, it's interesting. So this is just purely coming from my side of the story. And I think as a consequence, and dad was at times inappropriate with me as well. I can share that fairly comfortably now. After he died nearly 22 years ago, and I had to do a lot of work on that. And I see my father in a very different light now. So it makes it easier for me to talk about it. And also for me that it's my story, but I no longer own the story. Like it doesn't affect me like it used to, because it affected me for way too many years. The whole way of being, how I felt as a woman, I felt embarrassed, I felt shy. My father called me inappropriate names, so I took those things on. So it didn't help me with my sense of self, my sense of sexuality, relating to other men, and all those sort of things. So that it was really, really powerful, And also I had no interest. I think what happened was, and when I finally did have a nervous breakdown in my early 40s, what we'd realized was, and that was also because I was driven, dad's death traumatized me. So all these things happened. But we realized I'd only connected with my head. I hadn't actually connected with my body. It only worked for my head. So my body actually didn't exist. When I think back now, to think, oh my God, how could I have done that to my beautiful, beautiful body?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really common response for trauma, right? Yeah. A lot of people who go through trauma, it's a coping mechanism. You just
exactly
disconnect.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And you don't get your disconnect. So, but you're aware of your body, because obviously, when you get, younger, your body changes, you get bosom, you have to buy bras. And in those days, again, we're looking back when I was 12, so nearly about what, 48 years ago, you didn't have all these gorgeous, sexy bras that you can buy now. Because I grew big very quickly.
Yeah.
So that didn't help matters, you know. And so I was wearing these mumsy, awful bras, you know, and then I had to keep, and I was big all around. So that didn't help me, you know, that didn't, and all these other young things were out there looking gorgeous. But what I realized was, interesting enough, many years later, when I had a breast reduction in my early 40s, and I was sitting there weeping my eyes out because it was painful, and I'd hurt, you know, I had sworn I'd never do anything to my body. Anyhow, I'm glad I did it, by the way. But I was sitting there on the hospital bed, and a lovely nurse came in. She was completely the opposite. She was an A cup, and I was weeping away. And she turned around and said to me something so beautiful. She said, you know, Chantal, I have actually the similar issues to you because I don't have a bosom. I don't feel feminine. I don't feel sexy. I don't this and I don't that, you know. And I just sat there, and in my, you know, haze of anesthetic and pain and painkillers, I went, oh my God, I'd never thought of that.
Yeah.
You know, because I used to look at someone like her and go, oh, I was jealous.
Yeah.
Absolutely jealous, you know, on many levels. But she was jealous of me. Well, not jealous, but, you know, women said, oh, I'd love your bosom. And I was thinking, oh my God, I couldn't think of anything worse. So do you see how we, you know, we compare ourselves?
Constantly compare ourselves, and what feels bad to you or wrong to you is like somebody else's dream. And I think, and like the beautiful thing when we have conversations like this, and when you had a conversation like you did in the hospital, is you start to go, oh, I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only one with these thoughts. I'm not the only one with these inner critic. I'm not the only one with, you know, whatever this is. We're actually all in this together. And the more we talk about it, the more that we can all sort of heal and work together. It's beautiful.
It is. Thank you. And that's exactly why when I reached out to, because it took me courage to reach out, would I even have a story to tell? And, you know, I didn't really know. We've got to know each other well. And I'm really excited to be here because we do have something to tell.
Yeah.
And as we said earlier, no age difference, because when you said you're 30, see, my niece is 30. So my mother's only grandchild. And, you know, sometimes mum and I have the most amazing conversations, Katie.
Yeah.
And interesting now, she's stunning. She's a really stunning girl inside and out. She's been an international model. So what I'm sharing with you is, and I can share from my perspective, I'm not sharing her story. So I want to be clear on that. You know, she's stunning, she's gorgeous, yet she says to us, I still had my own issues.
Yep.
Because of the way the industry is, you know, and you sit there and it made me want to cry that this most gorgeous, stunning girl still had major issues. In fact, sometimes I'm not sure if they're worse than mine because of the industry, you know. Yet there was my niece, myself, my mother, all wanting the same thing, to feel loved and beautiful and, you know, all those gorgeous, yummy things, you know, that we don't feel. And what a waste. I look now. So when I went through and I had a nervous breakdown and ended up in hospital because my adrenals gave out and I was whatever. But even then, it still took me time to actually still honor my beautiful body, because I was distressed, I was upset, I didn't get it. It took me a long time to still come back and go, oh my God, I have the most divine body. I do eat well, always have eaten well. I used to drink Coca-Cola. I'm off that now, thank goodness. Never smoked, do lots of exercise, but I didn't honor my body as she is.
Yeah. And there's a big difference. So
big difference.
How did you, I want to know how you started, because, you know, you were in your 40s, you had the surgery, you had this nervous breakdown. That's all. And you said you lost your dad. So that's a lot of big things.
Yeah.
How did you begin?
Do you know what? Slow process, bit by bit. And I can remember when I was reading a book many years ago, an Ayurveda book on Ayurveda, and it talked about your body. And what they said, to have the courage to actually sit in front of the mirror naked. Well, I didn't quite sit in front. Well, I did eventually. But what they did say was, start with one part of your body that you love. And I love my feet. My feet are just gorgeous, small, cute, petite. And I have really beautiful shoes because that's my fetish. So, you know, it takes time. And I just think it's about honoring one part of the body that you actually like or love.
Yeah.
Could be your hair, and I've got great hair. Love my hair, and I love the fact where it's going grey. I don't worry about it going grey. I want to own that I'm the divine older woman. So that's how it sort of slowly came back. And I think once I had the nervous breakdown. It sounds a lot. Then I got told I couldn't have children. That is when I fell into even more of a heap.
Okay.
Because then that meant I actually my body couldn't do the function it was meant to do.
Yeah.
Because everything is around procreation, whether you want a child or not. It's still all focused. And I'm reading a really good book at the moment about an older woman, and I can't remember, it's pronatalism, I think it's called. It's actually a word. And what they're saying, everything you say, do, look, see, advertise, is all about pro having a baby, pro having a family. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. So then, and even if you didn't want children and you're clear on that, you can still have issues around, well, what is my body? And also for me, I can only talk about, I actually did want children. Now, all these layers, I'm wondering if I actually did. So again, layers upon layers. But I then I went into a funk with my body, because like, I let it down. I'm not going to give my mother a grandchild. I'm not doing what everyone else is doing. So what was the purpose of my body, Katie?
Yeah.
Then I got periods for another 6-8 years, because I'd gone into menopause early because of all the stress. And so, of course, the next 6 or 8 years or whatever it was, my periods were just a burden, right? They became a burden. It was this constant memory. I couldn't have a child. So I wasn't worthy. I wasn't a woman. My goodness, now, 7 years after, I'm in post-menopause, I'm going, wow, my gosh, how could I have not honored all that time and seen it still as a blessing?
Yeah.
But I didn't see it as a blessing.
Yeah. When you're in it, it's very hard to see, especially if you're not in communities or surrounded by people who are sort of doing the work and have that awareness. If you're sort of just doing this by yourself, you need something or somebody to sort of snap you into, like, look at this, look how amazing you are.
Yeah, you do. And you see, it's interesting. And also, because when you're not focusing on, so I've had a lot of counseling and psychologists because of my father, and then the grief, and then of course the accident, but we never focused on my body, because that never occurred to me to even bring my body up. Only focused on my body from a point of the pain and the severe whiplash injury and all sorts of, fibromyalgia. So I never looked at it that way. So it's only been again in the last few years where I've actually started going, okay, well, I no longer have that. That's no longer an issue. What can I do? So that's the story. So it takes years to get to this point. So now I'm working a lot more. The other thing I'd lost track of was working with my intuition, because I actually ended up quite a shell and only working from the striving, doing masculine point of view. And my body was going like that. I didn't tune into that lovely, soft, gentle, feminine side because it's too scary. When you have your nervous system is in such chaos, which mine was, you disconnect from your intuition anyhow. So you lose trust in everything, body, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
And which one do you focus on first? Well, you can't. But but initially I had to focus on my body, the pain.
Yeah.
Then I focused on my mind because I had memory loss and all those sort of things. Then I could focus on the intuition. Now I can bring the whole lot together and then own it in my body.
And tell us about, so, you said you were very disconnected, very in the head, very masculine. And I think so many, I think that's our world today. I think that's currently at least that's what is sort of deemed as like desirable. That's what everybody's pushed to do, right? Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. It's the hustle, 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 go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And we've stopped honoring that feminine energy. So how did you begin? Because now, I could see you, we're on camera right now, but even just, seeing you online and hearing you speak, you do have a really beautiful feminine quality about you. So how have you integrated that?
The tools that I use. So again, it's everyone finds their own way. Meditation, mindfulness, tapping, Reiki for a start.
Okay.
A lot of focusing on the different parts of my body, on the different stories that I had around my body. Becoming aware of my body changing, even though it had already changed, aware of the shifts in my body, starting to look at myself with different eyes, with eyes of love, with eyes of the older woman, watching, I call it hashtag grey and divine. I created that because it's about being grey and we're still divine.
Yeah.
So again, it's a process, everyone. It's a process. This didn't happen overnight. So, I might have stepped forward, gone back, whereas now I'm really owning. So I went from knowing, so the head, it dropped into my body. Then I went into the feeling. So I began to feel it in my heart. So I did a lot of heart work. put my hand on my heart, breathing in my heart, tuning into my body, just kept going blessings, you know. Now I'm owning it. I'm owning who I am. That's what it is.
Oh, I love that. You just gave me like tingles all up and down my spine. That's so beautiful. I love that you've gotten that. So tell us, I should say, I want to hear more about the work that you're doing, because the work that you're doing is really facilitating other women to have similar experiences to you, right?
Yes.
Like what you're doing is just amazing. So tell us about that.
Well, again, over years. So I'll go a little bit back in history. How this all came about was my mum was always a little bit the renegade, did Reiki many years ago, even before just only come to Perth, Western Australia. And we started got into Reiki. So I started doing that, and I did massages and facials, and then created my own skincare range. Because I've always been, when I look back now, my original business was Enjoy Feeling Alive, but because I'm French, I wanted to call it Joie de Vivre. So I already wanted that then, and I wanted it for myself. Little did I realize how it was not happening that way. So I've always had this fascination and this delight and this wanting to support women who can support, you know, it's that lovely exchange. So that's how that all came about. And when I did my skincare range, it was called She Who Feels Beautiful Feels Free, whereas now She Who Feels Confident is Free. Because when you start feeling confident about yourself. So what I've done over the years, I'm now a counsellor, so I'm an intuitive counsellor. I want to be a confidence intuitive counsellor, because it's all about supporting women, but I'm also going to start specializing. This is what I'm learning, where I want to specialize, is women without children. But I think a lot of women will be able to relate to some of the stuff anyhow, because it's still all about our bodies. But I really want to work with women that you know that you are beautiful the way you are, that you have a confidence about you that creates a sense of freedom. That's why I called my business Unfold Your Freedom. But I needed to step into that, interestingly enough, because when you feel there's a freedom about owning the parts you love, the parts you don't love. And that's something I had a realization just this morning with what was happening with my mum, and how I was triggered stuff in me, and, you know, old age and body, and that being, you know, woman without children, who's going to care for me. But I realized it wasn't about just the freedom of being free of all your stories and your history. It's also about having the freedom about it. Today, I'm not having a good day. Today, I just needed to be able to be with myself, enjoy having this conversation, Kate, with you and who's listening or who will be listening. There's a freedom in that. A freedom of sitting in the discomfort, the freedom of going, you know what, today my stomach does not feel attractive, because yesterday they had actually really delicious food there. I ate more sweet stuff than I normally would. You know, so today I'm feeling really quite uncomfortable in my body, therefore I'm not feeling attractive. You know, and I want to just sit with that, okay, today, and then just do that. Okay, I may have gone off track, Katie. So where were we going? No. How I work with women?
No, but I just want to interrupt you there for a second, though, because I think that's such a good point. Is like, you are going to have days where you have too many sweets, or where you go overboard at a buffet, or where you have, you know, one too many of whatever, and maybe you don't feel great in your body. Maybe you're bloated, maybe you're retaining water, maybe, you know, we've all had those days. And I think part of the journey is, like you said, it's just allowing that, and just creating space for that, and not judging it when it happens.
Exactly. And, or if you do judge, because I did judge myself, but it's only it's like, okay, so again, that's some of the processes that I support women with. I go through a process that if that judgment comes up, that you can go, okay, thank you, I've judged myself, but I don't need to keep buying into it. I don't really need to remain attached to that judgment.
Yeah.
But I might need to still do that numerous times during the day. So that's, you know, that doesn't mean you suddenly, oh, yippee, I'm happy with my bloated tummy or anything like that. No, I'm making light of it, but that's, you know, because it isn't that light. But it's like, okay, because I can still eat, so I'm eating well today.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's about, like, you're not letting it just derail you completely, or send you down that spiral of shame. And then, oh, I've already started, I might as well just have another day with sweets. And then, oh, whatever, I'll just spend the whole weekend watching Netflix and lying on the couch, and I just give up. Like, it's about allowing it, seeing it, and going, do I want to keep going down this? Yes, go for it. That's your choice. Or no, what do I choose for myself instead? And
that's exactly right.
And do well by yourself. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And I think the other thing I've found also for women, and I did initially too, but no more, seek help.
Yeah.
counselor, psychologist, if it's that's whatever. I had an amazing GP. I've got now a beautiful holistic GP, a beautiful chiropractor. But I also would suggest really seek help for your mental attitude, your mental way of being. Because yes, I've got all the tools now, absolutely. And that's how I work with women. But there's times I need help. And, today my counsellor can't see me till next week because everything that's come up with mum and what's been happening for me and all that and what it's triggered in me about being the woman without children. How am I going to be? How do I love my body still? All that sort of stuff. I go and see a counsellor. Absolutely. But there's shame still around that. I still say counsellor, and she's actually a psychologist. But, I can't say I'm going to see a psychologist, Katie, because there must be something wrong with me. And particularly if I'm doing that sort of work, well, if she hasn't got it together, how am I meant to work with her? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Rather than seeing it as I'm open, I go and see one too, because the more I support myself, I support you or, whoever wants to work with me. Yeah. So I'm learning to let go of my own shame around that and embarrassment, If I didn't get here just because.
Yeah. And it's a journey. Like you have, just because you've come so far from where you started doesn't mean you've reached the end. Personally, I think the end is when we die.
Absolutely.
I think anybody who says like, oh, I've finally gotten there. Like, well, you're still breathing. So no, you have not. Like you're still walking the path. So, and if that means that you need help and that you need support, I love that there's less stigma around it now, but it definitely is still there. It definitely is. Yeah.
It is, because we feel ashamed, we feel embarrassed that we even need help. We feel ashamed that we haven't got it together. We feel ashamed that we don't like our bodies like everyone else supposedly does, Oh, I can't talk about that. Yeah. And I think coming back to something you said, we finally got there. The only thing I would add to that is, I agree with you, it goes on for life. So what I do is I finally got to that point, yippee, because I know there's going to be more, but it's lovely when you can get to that point. At last, I've got to a point where like I'm comfortable with something, because then now and another word I heard recently, which I loved, would help me with my embarrassment, shame, evolution. As you said, it's an evolution. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that word, my whole body went, yes. Yeah. We can evolve together. We can evolve. And I love like you walking alongside you, along the path for a while, for however long that might be. We can really get into something. There's a sense of safety created, a sense of knowing, a sense of, I really look forward, it sounds odd, to see my psychologist, because I know when I go there, she's going to see me, witness me, honor me, accept me, and I'm going to walk out of there with something, an insight or a change or a good conversation, or I can go and share something that, like I love my mum, but I read something the other day she had. Anyhow, that's another story, but I'd read something that really hurt me before I was meant to go and see her, because it's proven something I've known for a long time. Now I'm going to go and talk to my psychologist about, because I want that out of my body. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because it affects me as a woman and my body.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to clear that energy. And and everybody does it differently. But I think that speaking it aloud to somebody who will hear you, witness you, not fix it. It's really just supporting you so that you can process it in whatever way feels right for you.
It is, Karen. What I learned with my diploma, my counselling diploma, was not quite the words I'd use, but they always say, when someone walks in, you've got to treat them as if they're the expert of their own lives, because actually you are the expert of your own life. You're not experts, but anyhow, that's the word they use. Because really what you do as a counselor, what I do as a counselor is, I mirror you, or I might challenge you a bit, but really it's you. I'm supporting you with my tools to connect with what you actually already know that you don't think you know, or you've lost sight of.
That's it. That is it. Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, that I can just hold space. I can support you.
Yeah.
There's a trust. There's a safety. There's a,
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get heard. It's important you feel you're being heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Chantal, tell us a bit about the work that you're doing specifically. Do you work with women one-on-one? Do you work with them in a group? Like what does that look like right now?
At the moment, I'm working with women one-on-one, so I have different packages, different time packages or cost packages.
Mhm.
I have created a closed Facebook group at this point for women without children, transforming the story, because I've decided I need to just focus on that. But I basically work with women one-on-one.
Okay.
And I will come back to doing circles and that. But at the moment, for me, I needed to learn how to love myself and just be able to give you what I can in my own way. But, if people, I have my Facebook business page there. I put all sorts of different things on it. So, you can go to my email. I have an email list. Again, I bring in different things. So there's various ways you can connect if you wish to.
Yeah. And I'll make sure all the links to those will, of course, be in the show notes. So anybody who wants to get in contact with you, it will be very, very, very simple to do so.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, I cannot believe we're already at time. I don't know where this time went. I feel like it's been 5 minutes, but I want to hear from you. If there is somebody who is maybe in that place where you were in your 40s, maybe really struggling, maybe very disconnected, still all in their head. If there's somebody who's in that place and they have this awareness that they need something and they don't know what it is there one thing you would recommend, or a practice or an exercise that you would recommend they start with?
Oh, okay. Just give me a moment to think. An exercise. Do you know what I would suggest you do? This is not easy because I couldn't do it for a long time. Stand in front of a mirror, even if it's just your face or your body with your clothes on, and just even brushing your hair, putting your lipstick on. So actually, and you know what, do it actively. So don't just stand there, because that can be too confrontational. But when you next time, even clean your teeth. So when you next time go into the bathroom, brush your hair, put your lipstick on, brush your teeth. Just have a little look at yourself in a different way. What is it? Just see one thing you love about yourself in that moment. Is it your hair? Is it the color of your eyes, your eyebrow, your teeth? Or the fact is that you've got this beautiful way of brushing your hair. Something as simple as that, and that's all it takes. That's all you need to do.
I love that. That's a beautiful starting point. Yeah, beautiful starting point. Okay, Chantal, we are going to wrap it up. Is there any other little tidbits of information or anything else you'd like to add, or do you feel complete from everything we've said today?
Thank you. I feel complete. But all I want to say to you beautiful women, and to you, Katie, and to myself, we are all beautiful for who we are, and the world needs us for who we are. That's it, who we are.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Oh, okay, Chantal, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. I am very grateful for having you. And so much love to you. If you're listening, make sure that you click on through and check Chantal out online. She has some really, really great stuff to offer. All of the links mentioned during the episode are down in the show notes. Please make sure to go on over and check them out. Also, please remember to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and I would be forever grateful if you would go on over and leave us a review on iTunes as well. That's going to help this message reach more women. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Here is to you loving yourself.